Okay. Would you ever live willingly in a genuinely haunted house?
Yes.
Why? Because that's insane.
It would be interesting. No, it would be interesting. Like if your ghost is a murderer, but like 90% of people aren't murderers, right? It's like somebody who died like a heart attack in their own house at like age 57 or whatever, and she's just vibing and she wants to watch Oprah. Like, that's fine. It's just a roommate.
Do you know if your house is haunted? Your new house? Is it haunted? I mean, it's over 100 years old. There's a chance.
Yeah, it's 120 years old. It's distinctly possible that it's haunted. Karina thinks it's haunted because we have had a couple of instances of things appearing, like that maybe belonged to the previous owner that like we never saw anywhere, but then they'd be in the middle of a room.
Casey!
We also have cats, so it's possible that they found something that we had not dragged out yet, but the last owner left a bunch of stuff here, so every now and then it shows up in weird places, and it's either the cats or a ghost. I'm not super worried about it.
Welcome to This Is Lit, a podcast where we drink and talk about our favorite books. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Casey.
So raise a glass and let's get started.
Pretty good. Liz, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking an old-fashioned on theme, because we're talking about something that is very old-fashioned today, a good old-fashioned murder. And I'm drinking it out of, I have to give a shout-out to my lovely glass, which is antique glass from my great-grandma Schwab, which I absconded from my grandmother's house with. Wow. I don't think she minds.
I'm just drinking grapefruit vodka and Sprite in a mason jar. It's essentially an adult Fresca.
Hey, you do you. Mm-hmm. Okay, so first a little bit about sound quality. Casey literally just moved into a brand new house, which may or may not be haunted, which I just learned.
It's fine, probably. But yeah, we might have a little bit of audio issues because I haven't got our office set up yet. So I'm recording in our big open living room, and also I don't know where my headphones are. So you might get a little bit of tinniness, a little bit of echo. We apologize. It should be fixed by our next episode if we do have that.
So today I have read Better Homes and Hauntings by Molly Harper.
A little bit of a special episode here today because of my move and how crazy things have been for the last couple of weeks. There was just no way that I was going to be able to sit down and read an entire book. So what we're doing today instead, I'm not taking a punishment shot because we did this on purpose, is Liz read a book and she's going to tell me about it, and I'm going to be obnoxious and interject as much as possible.
Yes, I have read this book multiple times because I love Molly Harper as just an author. She's one of my favorite guilty pleasure authors because all of her books are really quick. There's always a romance element. And if we're lucky, there's a supernatural element because she does straight up just romance, but the heroines are always sassy as hell. And everyone is very, I don't know, she just shakes these books out of her sleeve. She has so many books. She's also the author of the very popular Half Moon Hollow series and the How to Run with a Naked Werewolf series, which is one of my favorites.
How to Run with a Naked Werewolf.
Yes.
Talk about burying the lead, Elizabeth.
There is a little bit of smut, but not a whole lot of smut.
Oh, boy.
This is not rated E or anything like that. So just to kind of give you kind of the overall tone, I knew the moment, this was the first Molly Harper book I ever read, and I knew I was going to love it from chapter 1, which I read it on Kindle because the hardback book still isn't here. Hello, Amazon. Ignoring the frantically waving red flags. Beware all enterprises that start with the purchase of Crocs. That's the first sentence of this book.
All right. Okay. You have my attention.
Yes. So it is spooky season. So this book starts off with, love me is good, spooky season. This book starts off with Nina Linden. She is our main character. She is a landscape architect, and she is on a boat going across the Newport Bay to what most of her childhood she has deemed Spooky Island, going to the affluent Whitneys and their rundown house, rundown old Victorian manor known as the Crane's Nest. Now,
Crane's Nest on Spooky Island.
Yes.
There's really no subtlety here, is there?
No. Everyone, Nina is what is known as a townie, so she's always on the coast. So she grew up in Newport. Everyone knows the stories of the Crane's Nest and how its original mistress met a mysterious end. So we're already getting into it. So we start off with Nina, who is violently seasick on this boat.
Fun.
Yeah. And we learn that she has been hired to help with the restoration of the Crane's Nest. It is an old, early 1900s Victorian manor. Like, if you've ever been to the Biltmore estate, it's that kind of a thing.
Okay. So why is she renovating it if she's a landscape architect?
She was hired by the owner, Deacon Whitney.
But but a landscape, I thought you did like the outside of the house. Is she doing the inside?
You do. She is renovating the gardens.
Ah, okay.
To renovate the gardens, and she is on the boat with a gentleman named Jake, who is the architect for the house and best friend of the owner of the house, Deacon Whitney. She is also on this boat with a woman named Cindy, who runs Cinderella Cleaning Service. She is the at-home organizer. She is the Marie Kondo in this situation.
Okay, so they've hired a whole team here.
They've hired a whole team. So she is on this team going out, and she is going to be stuck on this island for the entire summer.
Boo.
And so we learn a little bit about Deacon Whitney and the affluent Whitneys and the manor a little bit. The Whitneys back in the early 1900s were shipping merchants, but they were very similar to something like the Vanderbilts. Old social money. But everyone knows about the rumors and nerves. There are rumors that one of the reasons Deacon Whitney wants the entire staff to stay on island all summer is because they've had many false starts to the project. There have been things that have gone missing, mysterious smells of rose water in the children's wing, that kind of a thing. And the mistress of the house, when she met her mysterious end, has been the subject of many rumor and salacious stories for over 100 years. Nina Linden is in dire straits. She makes a reference about how she's barely able to pay her assistant. She's going to get through this job. This job is going to help her career go off and save her business. So she is a desperate woman on the edge and is not going to be scared away by a couple of ghost stories.
Sure.
Yeah. She's a logical woman. And she's still violently seasick on this boat. And they're about to get there, and she looks up at the Widow's Walk of the Crane's Nest and sees a mysterious shape silhouetted against the sky, and then promptly throws up over the side of the boat.
Charming.
Yeah. So already, we're not off to a good start.
Yeah, literally you see your first ghost before you even make landfall. That's probably not a good sign.
No, usually not a good sign. And then the next chapter, we meet the owner of the mysterious manor, Deacon Whitney. I believe the author describes him as so upwardly mobile by age 28 he could own his own country.
Deacon Whitney, it's got that rich person ring to it.
It does. Except he steps out of the helicopter and under his button-up shirt you get a glimpse of Captain America's shield.
Oh, so he's a nerd. How old is this person? 28?
Yeah, he's 28. I believe one of the terms described to him.
The house.
Yeah, I believe one of the terms described to him is adorkable.
So is he our romantic interest here?
He is our romantic. I'm sorry, this is going to be a lot of white cis het stuff.
Rich people too. God, Liz, you're really going through it here.
I know. I'm sorry, but his family was not doing well until he became the sole owner and inventor of something called ID, which is basically Facebook.
Right.
So he has made billions of dollars off this little internet scheme of his.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's decided to take some of his millions and use it to restore the Crane's Nest to its former glory. And so, of course, he shows up in a helicopter, and Jake, who happens to be his best friend, who is the architect, is like, hey, you know, douchebags usually show up in helicopters and then not introduce themselves to the staff. And what are we? We are not a douchebag. Come on.
So Jake is his poor person conscious.
Kind of, yeah, even though Jake also comes from a relatively well-off family.
This book rich, Liz!
Okay, to be fair, the only two people in the book who are rich are Deacon and Jake, and everyone else in the book who is rich is an asshole. Ugh. And they get their comeuppance.
All
so
right.
Don't worry.
Fine.
We learn a little bit more about Cindy, who started the Cinderella cleaning service, and she started it on her own when she was 21 years old after her dad died of cancer. So we also learned that she is very good friends with people at the library, and she kind of fills us in on the mysterious death of Catherine Whitney.
And she's the original owner of the house?
She is the original mistress of the house. She and her husband, Gerald, built...
Gerald did it. Calling it right now.
Calling it right now.
Yeah, trust a man named Gerald. Absolutely
Gerald.
not. Gerald murdered his wife. Sorry, continue.
Catherine Whitney was really only the mistress of the home for a couple of months until her untimely demise. What happened was, one afternoon, she just up and disappeared while the servants were taking care of a fire. Mysteriously disappeared. And there was an all-out search for people to find her, and it turns out her body washed up on shore. And she had mysterious bruising around her neck, and her wedding set was missing.
Gerald did it.
So not only was her wedding set missing, but all of her other jewelry that Gerald had ever given her was missing. So everyone is like, oh, she was going to get all these jewels and run off because, you know, they had a terrible marriage. Like, there was even rumors that the reason the staff quarters is separated from the house is so the staff wouldn't hear what Gerald was doing to his wife at night. It's very salacious. But after Catherine's death, the family fell into ruin. Complete and utter ruin. Gerald's business ventures failed. He died shortly after. And the family was never able to recover their fortune.
It's almost like they're cursed because he killed his wife.
Yes, it's almost like there is some sort of Whitney curse.
Weird.
Mm-hmm. There have been several reimaginings and motives to Catherine's demise, which have been in the public eye. There have been several books about what happened to them.
The whole true crime obsession thing.
Yes. Cindy fills us in on the actual history. Nina is like, why are you being so cold to Jake? He's like, yeah, he's rich, but he's kind of acting decently. And she's like, we used to date.
Of course.
Yeah. They went out on 2 dates, and then he ghosted her and never called her back.
Someone he worked with?
This was 8 years before they worked together.
Oh.
So she's like, we used to date, and now he's acting like he doesn't remember me.
Men are horrible.
I know.
I think Cindy and Nina should get together.
Cindy and Nina?
I've already decided.
I would go Cindy and a character you haven't met yet. But
Okay.
Yeah. So the next day, they go ahead and start the renovation, and we find out that night before, Nina had a terrible nightmare. She has a dream where she is making beds in the servants' quarters, and she notices on her hand is this giant diamond ring flanked by sapphires. And she's making the bed, and some guy comes up behind her and gets handsy, and is like, oh, look, this pretty piece of skirt already bent over the bed, and, like, it starts getting kind of steamy. And then the dream shifts to where someone is choking her and she ends up underwater, watching the sleeves of her blue muslin gown turn to actual decay and she turns into a skeleton.
Sick.
Yeah. This place is cursed.
Oh, it's fine. I have nightmares like that all the time.
I know, right?
They gave me medication for it. She needs meds. That's it.
She needs meds. It's fine. And so they actually start the renovation. And so she is pulling weeds out of the original flower bed. And she notices that like all the statuary in the garden is all Greek women, usually. And so she's like, oh yeah, that one's Medes, first wife of Zeus. And so then she and Deacon start talking about like Greek mythology and all that stuff. And that kind of turns into a little flirtation. And Nina shows this bigwig of ID Corporation who's like into the latest technology that she has a Nokia phone.
Like a brick?
Yeah, like a brick of a phone. And he is like, I hired a Luddite. And then things come to an abrupt halt when Cindy and Jake come down the lawn screaming at each other about whether or not to take out a wall in this guest bedroom for Mr. Whitney's collectibles, aka action figures.
Can't believe these straight people are out here flirting with Greek mythology. Greek mythology is gay culture. I'm telling you.
It really is. Look no further than Apollo, my friend.
Oh my God. Don't want to talk about it.
And so they're there and they're like, okay, everything's fine. It's all right. And like through this whole conversation, Nina has her back to the house because she's like, I do not want to see anything again. I think what I saw was a product of seasickness, but I do not want to see shit. And if I don't look at the house, I won't see shit.
Yes, that common seasickness side effect.
Hallucinating a person on the widow's walk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That happens to me every time I get seasick. I see ghosts, you know?
I know, right? Weird.
Wild.
And so they're there and they think they hear somebody calling Deacon's name. And they're like, that's so weird. No.
Deacon.
And they're like, that's so weird. Nobody else is on the island except like the work crews and us and
the ghosts.
And the ghosts. But Deacon is very adamant the place is not haunted. In no way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Sure. And then around the corner comes scampering Dottie Whitney, Deacon's cousin.
Dottie
Whitney. She is a little forest sprite of a person. She has like a bunch of loud, crazy colors in her hair. She's a writer and photographer. She is a free spirit. She believes in all this mumbo jumbo. And
have one of those.
Yeah. And so Deacon is like, let's go get a drink. Because Dottie is not supposed to be there. And so they go inside and Nina is like, it's fine. It's a perfectly normal house. Looks at the grand staircase and sees the start of a hoop skirt. And as things go up and up and up and up and up, things get darker and darker and darker. And then her attention is immediately pulled away. And she's like, what? What?
No ghosts here, nothing to see.
No ghosts here, especially the lady of the manor. No way.
Definitely not. That would be weird.
And so we go into this whole thing about who Dottie is. Dottie is really close friends with her cousin Deacon and with Jake. They went to college together. Apparently she was arrested for protesting GMO chicken in the cafeteria, but was arrested because she was naked while she was protesting.
I think that Dottie and Cindy should get together.
I agree. Dottie and Cindy would be good for each other. But yeah, she's been traveling the world. She's been taking photographs, and she is here to kind of clear up any of the historical rumors, because every 30 years or so, someone has reimagined the Whitney tragedy in some way, shape, or form. Like the first book was about Gerald in a drunken rage killing Catherine over her salacious affair with the architect. The second book was about him being in an opioid-fueled rage, strangling her because he was an abusive husband. And the last one was Gerald killed his wife in a jealous rage after he caught her in flagrante with her maid.
Ooh.
So Dottie is here to write a book about the restoration of the house and to kind of clear up a bunch of those salacious rumors. Because she's like, there was a murder mystery company that offered us a ton of money to do murder mystery reenactments here on Halloween. So that kind of stings that people would like air out our family dirty laundry every year for entertainment.
Right.
So she wants to do it right and do it with a family perspective. And one of her biggest things she wants to do is she wants to find Catherine Whitney's missing jewels, which the entire family has been looking for over 100 years. And she wants to find her great-great-grandmother's diaries to see what really happened, which no one has ever been able to find those either.
Oh, but she kept diaries.
Yes, she kept diaries. Dottie also is the one who brings the sketches of the insurance, because her jewels were insured. Catherine's jewels were insured. And so she brings the sketches of all of Catherine's jewelry. There's like a chunky bracelet made out of diamonds, made of daisies, and a choker with a
white diamond with 2 sapphires on either side of it, maybe?
That was her wedding set.
Weird. Probably a coincidence.
Totally coincidence. And then we have a sudden shift of perspective. There is someone watching Nina and Cindy and Dottie as they talk about this. About trying to find the ledgers in the house. About trying to find the jewelry. And it is someone that hates Nina Linden. Absolutely despises her. Thinks she got her way here by doing little sad, pathetic doe eyes and didn't actually earn her place. And how dare she take the place of someone more worthy.
Okay.
And perspectives again.
Okay, yeah, I didn't need to know any more information about that. That's fine.
Yeah, no, we'll get to it. And then we switch perspectives again. We now focus on Cindy. Now, Cindy's job as an organizer and a cleaner is due to the many numerous lawsuits against Deacon to get this house from distant cousins of the Whitney branch. It is her job to catalog any kind of valuables that are still left in the house, including antiques, paintings, tapestries, anything else. So it is her job to organize, clean, and restore and document. So she is cleaning chairs and tidying up in the children's wing, in the nursery. And she knows all the work crews are in the ballroom to keep things on schedule. And she's cleaning and she hears thunking footsteps above her head. In Gerald's room, where no one is supposed to be. Ooh, spooky. So she's like, okay, I'll ignore it. It's probably just some construction going on. Whatever. And then it happens again. And she calls up, hey, no one's supposed to be up there. And then she hears furniture moving. The slide of furniture across a wood floor. And that sets her off.
Floors. They're going to scratch the floors. Come on, guys.
Exactly. That sets her off. And also, too, if somebody moves something before she catalogs it, that could be a huge lawsuit for Deacon. And she's starting to like Deacon because he's soft on Nina and we all protect Nina. Because she's a very skittish woman right now. And so she is like, okay, that's it. I am going to go up there and give that person a piece of my mind and lay into them. So she starts up the stairs to the 3rd floor landing. And it gets darker and colder. And she's like, she's calling, saying, who's up there? There's no response. And then she can't breathe. Oh. Something that she cannot see has wrapped around her neck and is cutting off her oxygen.
Good times.
Yeah, good times.
Love and so she... death by a ghost.
Yeah. Love to be strangled to death by a ghost.
It would be a cool way to die. I mean, like, you could have them put it on your tombstone, like, murdered by ghost. That's pretty sick.
But how would they be able to prove that you were killed by a ghost if a lot of people don't believe in ghosts?
They don't have to prove it. If I put it in my will that if I am murdered by a ghost, I want you to put murdered by ghost on my tomb, you better do it or I'll haunt your ass, you know?
I'll make note of that. So Cindy is about to pass out and tumble headlong down the stairs when who other than Jake finds her. The guy that she's kind of have the hots for, but is still mad at.
Straight people.
I know. I'm sorry. So he gets her, carries her down the stairs, asking if she's okay, and she's just like, it's fine, it's dust allergies, because she cannot comprehend what just happened to her.
I love whenever there's very obviously supernatural shit happening in books and people are just like, I'm going to ignore this until it becomes such a critical crisis that I cannot possibly ignore it anymore. And if I had acknowledged it earlier, maybe we could have solved the problem.
Well, so far, everyone is having what is called in the paranormal community a personal experience. There's this experience meant just for them.
Sure.
And so there is no outside corroboration. So it's a little hard to be like, wait.
Used your words if you were like, hey, something weird happened to me and I think it was paranormal, and then somebody else goes, oh my god, I had one of those too, and then a third person goes, and then it's like, oh, maybe we should call an exorcist. Like, but no, we're gonna wait until we're at death's door before we're like, hey, this place might be haunted.
Well, Cindy and Nina know Deacon is very adamant against the house being haunted, and they're worried if they say something, then there goes their job.
Fine. That's reasonable.
Yeah. And Cindy is ignoring this on the same day she lost 2 crew members, one of whom is very religious and is like, this is a bad house. And just like ran screaming out of the children's wing and sat on the dock and waited for the next ferry.
That's a valid response, honestly.
I feel like that is a very valid response, yeah.
I think that anyone should be allowed to leave anywhere, anytime if they feel bad juju. I think I could leave. I could walk out of a workplace, be like, nope, bad juju, goodbye.
Yep. Bad juju.
I'm doing it. Nope.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Like, we had the last architecture firm I worked with, it used to be an old Nickelodeon. Mm-hmm. And for those of you of the younger generation, Nickelodeon is not just a TV channel. It also was a term for a movie theater where you paid a nickel to go see a movie. And it's where Walt Disney actually premiered some of his first animated shorts. Yeah, and that place definitely had some residual energy in it. Like, literally, they weren't even working on the roof, and some of the plaster around the roof of some of the plaster molding around the roof fell down and struck my computer screen one day. And if I had been leaning forward, it would have hit me in the head. And I'm like, I'm going to lunch.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. That should have been an omen. Mm-hmm. But yes, as Jake is carrying Cindy down the stairs, we are introduced to another vile creature. Regina, and not all of us are like this, is the evil interior decorator for the project.
Okay, you say not all of you are like this, but consider that Regina is not the first evil interior decorator I've ever met.
I know, it's such a bad stereotype. I would like to hope I'm a nice interior decorator.
Well, Catherine O'Hara's character in Beetlejuice. She wasn't very nice. Wasn't very nice either. Lots of them do seem kind of on the border of evil.
Yes, Regina has, I believe she described it, she has a body honed by a ruthless personal trainer and scrupulous attention paid to calories. Shiny black bob, bright red lipstick, wears a lot of black and purple, and stiletto designer shoes she can barely walk in. Most of them have red soles.
Louboutin.
Yeah. And apparently she is also an old friend of Deacon's. And so she shows up and is hanging all over Deacon. And then as soon as Jake makes his appearance, she switches tack and goes straight to Jake. And starts, like, brushing down his shirt. And she's like, we haven't seen you since the lavender ball, darling.
Lavender ball?
Yeah. Old family socialites. I have no idea.
Oh, I love that they just throw that in there and just make me deal with the fact that somebody went to something called a lavender ball.
It could be a thing where everybody wears lavender, or it could be a very French thing where they harvest the lavender.
A lavender ball means something very different in the LGBTQ community.
Is it something we can air on the podcast?
No, the lavender was associated with lesbians for the longest time. So lavender both get-togethers.
I didn't know that.
The more
I knew about green, but I didn't know about the lavender association. So she has come to present Deacon with the boards for the interior design of the crane's nest. And everyone's like, oh, it won't be that bad. 2 hours later, nothing but silent horror at the designs. The furniture is all leather and uncomfortable. It looks like a spaceship. She did Deacon's offices in Boston for ID, and she hired a local person to do a Starbucks cup sculpture, and the cleaning lady tried to throw it away, so she put up a sign that says, please don't recycle the art. And even I'm like, bitch, this is a Victorian manor. You do not whitewash walls in this thing. And the pinnacle of evil for this woman, she was going to white out. This woman was going to white out Tiffany stained glass windows. She's evil and needs to die.
Why?
Because the colors didn't work with her color scheme, darling. This woman is evil and a lazy interior designer, and I hate her. Which, I mean, that's what you're supposed to do.
She just got bad taste. Like, is she actually going to do evil crimes later? Or did she just want to whitewash Tiffany windows?
She does something unforgivable in the girl world. So, just unforgivable if you're a decent person. So, I don't care for her. Everyone's staring at it like, oh my God. The only person who doesn't stare at it in shocking horror is Dottie, because she's not there. Dottie is in Catherine Whitney's suite. And she's just kind of checking things out, searching. She was not allowed to go into this room when she was a child because everybody thinks that that's where the jewels are hidden. So the children were not allowed to play in Catherine Whitney's suite. And so she's just kind of searching around. She takes her scarf off and starts cleaning part of a wooden inlaid cabinet with her scarf. And her scarf catches something. And she shakes it loose and is like, weird. Which, by the way, in Catherine Whitney's dressing room suite, there is a whole Aphrodite theme going on. So she tries to do the motion again, and her scarf catches. And she goes to the bottom of her scarf and pulls, and a side panel pops out. So not only is this house spooky, haunted, and cursed, but it also has secret compartments.
Yes.
There is a secret tunnel going from Catherine's room to the children's wing, and that's just one of the ones they know about.
Secret tunnel. Secret tunnel. Sorry.
It's all right. It's a good song. So out pops this box, and Dottie is just elated because she believes it is her destiny to solve the Whitney curse.
Sure.
So she's super excited and goes to Deacon in his office, which the combination to his office is the date the first Batman comic came out. I appreciated that as a comic book nerd. She's like, I know this combination because you used it for everything.
Makes it a little less secure.
Yeah. And so she's teasing him about his kind of semi-infatuation with Nina. And then she's like, oh, and by the way, I found this giant lockbox in Catherine's room, and you're not going to get to see what's in it unless you follow me. And he's like, gosh damn it, Dottie. So they go back, and Dottie picks the lock, because who needs bolt cutters?
When you've got a bobby pin.
Exactly. So Dottie picks the lock and opens the box, and they all think it's Catherine's missing jewels, but inside are books. And it is at least 30 to 40 little brown books that are Catherine Whitney's diaries.
Every time I watch a movie or read a book where somebody's just got piles of journals, and not only piles of journals, but they all match. I'm just like, what kind of demented world? Like, I have never successfully. One time when we were moving, I found a journal that I had written an entry in 2008, and then another entry I had written in 2014 was the next one after it. And there was an entire separate journal that had a couple pages in it. Like, maybe I'm ADHD. Yes, that's true. But come on, who actually journals every single day of their life in perfectly matching books?
People who have nothing else to do with their lives, love.
I guess in the 1900s, that's a little more realistic.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, I have a fair amount of journals, and none of them are consistent or chronological, and they certainly don't match.
No, but the diaries are a huge find because they can go a long way to help solving the mystery of what actually happened to Catherine Whitney.
Right.
And the first journal starts on her wedding day to Gerald.
That's convenient.
Yeah, horribly. It's almost like it's a plot device or something. So Dottie is like, okay, I'm going to go through these journals. Everything's going to be fine, and we'll see what we can learn. Meanwhile, Cindy is cleaning the windows in Gerald's room a couple weeks later. So she's cleaning the windows, and she's not really paying close attention because she says cleaning windows is a very zen activity for her. And she looks out the window because there's a shift because suddenly her arm is not her arm anymore. It is covered in black cotton, and she looks down and she's wearing a starched white apron, which is not the clothes she was wearing before. And she looks out the window.
Anybody, you know?
Yeah. She looks out the window and sees a beautiful blonde woman on the lawn in a blue muslin dress arguing with a dark-haired, handsome man. And she turns away. The blonde lady turns away in frustration, and everything snaps back when she hears a crash behind her and turns around and sees that Jake has dropped the glass he was holding. And he was like, "Did you see that too?" So.
Well, it's about damn time.
Yes. So we finally have something that can be corroborated because Cindy saw it and Jake saw it. And they're like, and Jake is like, "I've always hated this house. It's so damn creepy." And Cindy is like, "We need to tell Deacon." And Jake is like, "We are not telling Deacon. There is no way we are telling Deacon." And she's like, "If you go to me and tell Deacon what we saw, I will go on a date with you." And he's like, "That's evil." Okay.
Wowie.
Yeah. And so then we switch perspectives again. We go to Deacon. He's taking his lunch break with Nina because they're going over some of the plans for the indoor solarium garden. They're just talking about what they could do, what could be done, talking about getting another greenhouse set up for her plants. So, it's nothing. There's a little flirtation here and there. It's nothing really crazy. She's trying not to get close to a man in power again after what happened the last time.
Oh, that's new information.
Yes, Nina, it has been alluded to through this whole story that Nina is surprised she passed the background check to get this job because her credit rating is in the toilet. She has a major gap in her documented work experience. And there have been some issues financially for her lately. And she's a very skittish woman.
And this ties back to like someone she dated previously?
Not dated, but someone she knew previously, yeah. And it's been alluded to, but it hasn't really been explained yet.
Sure.
Because she has talked about, she's like, this job, she's determined that this job is not going to get ruined. There is no way this job can get ruined because of security, and it's on a freaking island.
Yeah, but ghosts.
So Nina goes into her greenhouse after her meeting with Jake, and it's destroyed. Panes are broken, pots are shattered, her new little samplings have been pushed into the dirt, the plans for the gardens are ripped off the walls and shredded and left all over the place. Like, she kind of starts going into a panic shock, and Deacon is like, "Oh, hey, I forgot to ask you, what the hell happened here?" And Nina curses for the first time in the book. She's like, stupid asshole. And that kind of leads to a little bit of kissing between Deacon and Nina.
What?
It's a very convoluted thing where it's like he's trying to like she's literally in shock, so he gives her a hug to see if she's okay. And then that kind of leads to kissing. And then she's like, no, wait, we probably shouldn't be doing this right now, right here.
Wow.
Yeah.
My first response when I see someone having a panic attack, I should kiss them back into normal. That'll work, right?
It started out as a hug.
Men are useless.
So then that leads to Deacon being like, what happened here?
Ghost,
you know,
Deacon,
yeah.
If
it's ghosts, then Dottie, who's a believer in all this, gets to deal with blood, dirt, and tears Nina. And so he takes her to the guest quarters away from the greenhouse, bandages up her hand, which she sliced on a pot, and Nina finally comes clean with her history. She was in college when she met a man named Rick Douglas. And his family owned a landscaping business. Rick had seen some of Nina's senior projects and asked her to help with a couple of sketches for a client. Those couple of sketches for one client turned into more sketches for another client, and then that eventually turned into full-time work for her. So they were rebranded as Elegant Environments, and Rick basically had Nina do all the design work, and he would be talking with these very upscale exclusive clients, trying to upsell them and see how things were going and blah, 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 blah. And so Nina's like, that's okay. They even had some projects that were written up in magazines, and Rick did the interviews. And she's like, that's fine, because I don't want the limelight for this. I'm not comfortable being interviewed. That's fine. And she kept asking him, when will I get my raise? When will I get my part in the business you promised me? And he's like, oh, we're barely breaking even. We're not bringing in the money we think we are. I'm not taking a paycheck so that way I can pay everybody else. And then she went to his house to pick up some planters, and he had a brand new bass boat attached to his truck. In fact, it was a new truck. And next to that new truck was another boat. And so she found the books and realized how much money he had ciphered away from the business. He was basically embezzling money from his own business.
Imagine that surprise.
Yeah. And she asked him, when will I get my raise? He didn't have an answer. When am I going to get part of the business? He didn't have an answer. And the next time, it basically came into a huge fight between the two of them. And she may have broken the windshield of that brand new truck with a planter shaped like a dolphin. Which is fair.
Best of us.
And so she left, clearly, but she had no contract. She never signed a contract with Rick. She couldn't ask him. She clearly couldn't put that on her resume, so she had nothing to show for years of work that she had done. And so she scraped every penny together she had and started her own business. And things were going well for a while. But then her reputation grew, and she started getting more and more exclusive clients. And Rick was losing clients to her. And that's when things started to happen. Like, she would leave a beautiful flower bed, and the next morning she would show up and somebody had poured bleach on all the plants and ripped up the flower beds. She would have her trailers of all of her gardening supplies stolen out of her driveway, and she would call the cops, and then by the time the cops would get there, it'd be put back. She's getting bills for credit cards that she had never opened. She's got mortgages for a hunting cabin in Utah. And she's like, I can never prove it, but I know it was Rick. Because he had threatened me that said I would be sorry, and she almost didn't bid for the Crane's Nest job because she knew Rick was going for it too. And she's like, I was afraid to bid for it because I knew if I got it, he would try and sabotage it. But I have to save my business somehow. So she's like, are you going to fire me? Deacon's like, I'm not going to fire you because some crazy guy is stalking you. He goes and checks the security footage, and in the middle of the night, at like 6 a.m. the night before, there is a dark figure going into the greenhouse, but they've got a ball cap on and their face is turned away from the camera, conveniently. So he calls his security guys, because, you know, he's Deacon, he has a shit ton of money. Of course, he has his own private security. And it's like, keep an eye on Rick Douglas for me. So at dinner that night, Jake and Cindy are like, we need to tell you something. And Deacon and Nina are like, we need to tell you something. And at the same time that Nina says, I think my old boss snuck onto the island, Jake and Cindy say the house is definitely haunted. And everyone's like, okay, let's talk about this.
Much to think about.
Yeah. Dottie, who believes in all this, is like, okay, Jake and Cindy, it sounds like you guys walked into a memory pocket of some kind, where this scene is going to replay over and over again while feelings are pretty high. And so they start making a list of all the crazy haunted stuff that has happened. And they start out with Nina's sighting. And they're like, okay, well, who felt something first? And Dottie's like, that would be Deacon. Deacon, who has been like, oh, this house is not haunted in no way, shape, or form. She's like, oh, yeah, Deacon's experience was the first one. And they're like, what are you talking about? Turns out, when Deacon was 10 years old and his parents had come to the Crane's Nest to find important documents or something to pawn so they could pay off his mom's credit cards at Elizabeth Arden, and, you know, they've had their car repossessed from the school parking lot. It's a whole big thing. Mm-hmm. But when Deacon was at this house and he was 10 years old, he went up looking for his mom, and he was on the 3rd floor landing, and something that he could not see started choking him.
Great, good.
Yeah.
So he wanted to tell anybody else that. Very
helpful. He told it to Dottie, and Dottie is like, it was a ghost. He's like, it's not a ghost. And so he is like, okay, so that happened when we were 10, which, as you can see, also mirrors the experience Cindy had on the 3rd floor landing of somebody trying to choke her, which Cindy and Catherine are blondes. So that's something also to remember. And then they have Nina's ghost sightings. They have Jake and Cindy's memory pocket. And so Dottie starts making them all keep a journal of their ghost experiences and what they've seen and felt in the house.
Right.
Dottie also is kind of like, I think this is a residual person haunting and not necessarily a demonic haunting, but we also do need to figure out how to get rid of the Whitney curse. And Deacon is like, there is no curse. And she's like, says the guy who got strangled by a ghost, there's a curse.
Compelling argument.
Mm-hmm. And this is also when they reveal that Nina, that nightmare she had the first time, has been reoccurring, and it's been happening multiple times a week. Deacon has been having the same nightmare from a different perspective multiple times a week. So Dottie is like, wait, so you
perspective?
Yeah. So he is the one choking Catherine, and Nina is the one getting choked. So Dottie is like, wait, you've been having dreams from the murderer's perspective, and Nina has been having dreams from the victim's perspective multiple times a week, and neither one of you thought this was important to bring up.
Yeah.
But then we have a short little cutscene where Jake takes Cindy out on their date that she promised. He takes her to the finished ballroom, which in the middle has a giant dome of stained glass Tiffany windows. Even though I know this place doesn't exist, I would love to live there.
Even though it's haunted. You were making fun of me earlier.
I will sell my soul for Tiffany stained glass.
I've got Tiffany stained glass in my new house.
You do?
Yeah, a lamp.
You know what? That's a hella expensive lamp. But yeah, so he's trying to be charming, taking her dancing in the ballroom, that kind of a thing. They end up in a huge verbal fight, and she gets really upset and beats him in the head with floor cleaner.
Thunk.
Yeah, pretty much. And he's like, what is going on? And she finally reveals that we dated and you don't remember me. And he's like, I thought your name was something else. And she's like, oh my God, I'm going to kill you. It turns out the reason Jake never called Cindy again was because his ex-girlfriend found out he had gone on a couple of dates with another girl and driven to Newport to talk to his parents about who he was dating and why she needed to date Jake instead. Basically, Jake had a crazy dating girl stalker in high school. And Cindy's like, oh, okay. And like right around then is also when Cindy's dad started to get sick. So they both just kind of went different directions. And they're like, okay, we're starting over. We're doing this again. The next major scene is when Cindy, Nina, and Dottie are all sitting around in the attic to the crane's nest. It's raining. You know, it's dreary, which is also, it's supposed to be good atmosphere for spirits. The energy kind of riles them up. So Dottie is like, let's talk about them and I'll record it and see if we can get an EVP, which is electronic voice phenomenon for people who are not into this stuff. They're up there talking, and basically what they've kind of concluded right now is that since that memory pocket happened in Gerald's room, Gerald is probably the one that has been angered because he saw his wife arguing with another man and it seemed like an intimate conversation. And, you know, it did seem like from the diary entries, it does seem like Catherine is running away. Some of the diary entries we have are that Gerald hired a local architect to build their house who was Jack Donovan, who happened to be Catherine's ex.
Oh.
Yeah. She's talking about like Gerald's always away on business and Jack is always here. It really does kind of allude to Catherine kind of slowly sliding into an adulterous affair.
Mm-hmm.
But while they're in the attic, they find Catherine Whitney's wedding trunk, her honeymoon trunk. And Dottie is like, yeah, my grandma saw the direction the family was taking and hid it so that way nobody would try and sell it. They open the trunk and inside is Catherine's beautiful custom-made wedding dress in brushes and things like that. But the top panel of the wedding trunk is loose. Dottie pops it out and finds salacious love letters to Catherine tied with pink lace, which are not signed by anyone. The signature is a drawing of a crane.
Okay.
It's like you don't keep letters from your school friends tied in pink lace and hidden in your wedding trunk.
Not so much.
So Cindy has been using her contacts on the mainland, her library friends, to kind of get some more archive information about the Whitneys.
Mm-hmm.
And so they talk about their kind of a coming out party, which was the party to celebrate the completion of a house. It was a fairy garden theme. You know, men wore masks, ladies wore frocks, there were trapeze artists in the ballroom, that kind of a thing.
Oh, but, yeah, sure, totally normal.
Yeah, totally normal. But there was a big scandal because at this coming out party, it was time to open the dance floor, you know, because the lady of the house always opens the first dance, and Catherine was nowhere to be found. Catherine was nowhere to be found, and guests said they heard Gerald and Catherine arguing in the rose garden. And then when she entered, she was very pale and very shaky, and she opened the dancing, and everyone's like, it was the most awkward night of the year. People left early, which was the greatest insult to a party that ever could be at that time. And so they're like, she went to meet her lover in the rose garden, and they're like, no, Jack wasn't there. Jack wasn't there at this party. Dottie is really upset about it because she's like, was my great-great-grandmother actually having numerous affairs? And she's trying to not lose interest in this family book. And she's also like, I'm the only person who hasn't seen or felt anything in this house. And she listens to the conversation they had in the attic the other day. There's no EVP. And she kind of falls into a light doze on her bed and wakes up. And it's dark. And sees a form hunched over sitting on the edge of her bed. And for a second, she thinks it's Deacon. Until this thing raises its head and finds out it has no face.
We love to see it. We love to see it. My favorite to see upon first waking. Fantastic.
A shadow person.
10 out of 10, I'm going back to sleep. Fuck this.
Yeah, and so she tries to kick the thing off the bed, and her foot goes through it.
Of course it does.
And it starts crawling up the bed towards her, and with silvery eyes that has formed, and it smiles, revealing rows and rows of shark teeth, it starts trying to strangle Dottie.
Perfectly normal. Frankly, that's what she gets for complaining that she hadn't had a paranormal experience in the
I
house.
know. Never complain
Like,
you don't have a paranormal experience. Whatever paranormal experience you eventually have will be horrifying.
Nobody's bothering you, and you're like, I didn't have a paranormal experience, and then you're getting strangled by a shark ghost.
Yeah. So basically, she screams for Deacon, and everybody comes in and is like, what the hell? And as soon as the lights turn on, they see it lift its head up, turn to them, and then vanish. And Cindy is like, okay, Deacon, you cannot say this house is not haunted anymore. We all saw that. And Dottie is like, okay, we're getting up and we're drinking.
Suggestion, get up and leave.
Yeah, you should leave. After this, Deacon is like, y'all, we need a break. We need a break. So he invites all of them to a charity event he has to go to at ID headquarters in Boston. Get them off island. So everybody's dressed up with somewhere to go. There's a helicopter ride to Boston. It's a little break from ghosts. It's basically kind of implied that Deacon brought Nina as his date. Mm-hmm. But they haven't talked about it yet. And so she meets Viola, his assistant, and she's a lovely woman, and I wish we knew more about her in the books. But she's like, here's your speech, you have 2.5 minutes. And Nina is like, 2.5 minutes? He's like, normally she gives me 1 to memorize the speech. And basically, since it's a charity event, everything is like, oh, well, everybody wants Deacon's money and his support. And she's like, fine, whatever. And so Deacon's up giving his speech, and Nina's getting him a drink at the bar, and she turns around, and there is Regina. It's like, Nora, you came.
Delightful.
Yes, she's evil. And then Dottie is like, yes, it was so nice that Nina came. And basically, it's like finishing school snide remarks whole situation. And she's like, oh, Mr. Whitney wants me to add some plants. And Dottie's like, why are you giving her this now? And she's like, well, it's not like she's actually here as a guest. At the end of this whole conversation, Nina is like, I want to hold her down and shave her head. Nina is about to go do something, and she hears a voice behind her say, hello, Nina, and turns around, and it is none other than her fucking stalker, Rick Douglas.
Of course it is.
Of course it's her fucking stalker.
This is a shitty party.
Yeah, it's a hella shitty party. And so basically what happens is Dottie runs off and signals Deacon with like some secret hand signals, and then Deacon shows up next to Nina and is like, protect Nina from crazy Rick Douglas kind of thing. And he's like, I'm going to have a serious talk with my security people because you have to check IDs at the door, and he's on the no-fly list.
Right.
And it became very apparent that Regina was the one who invited him.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. They get through the party. Deacon has them removed. They all get back to the house, and there is a massive thunderstorm coming on, and everybody feels a lot better now that they've had a night away from the island and blah, blah, blah. And Jake, after his shower, is going back to his bunk, and he gets there, and there is a blonde woman waiting for him in his bed. And he's like, oh, Cindy. And so he's like, I thought this was like against all of your rules. She had 2 martinis at the party. He's trying to be a gentleman about it. And he's like, are you really sure this is a good idea? And lifts up the bed sheets, and she has no legs.
Groovy.
Yeah. And she rolls over, looks at him with dripping wet blonde hair, says, help me, and dissolves into nothing, leaving nothing but wrinkles in the sheets. And Jake, being the big strong man he is, screams loud enough to wake up Deacon and knocks over a nightstand and a lamp.
Seems reasonable to me.
Yeah. And Deacon's like, what is going on? Jake is like, giant spider. Because he's like, I am not telling Deacon about what nearly happened.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. So Jake has that ghost sighting and is really rattled by it. Basically, the next day, Deacon invites Regina back to the island to discuss her job. She tries to seduce him, sits in his lap, and is like, children can be negotiated, we make sense. We should just go ahead and get married. I think your little landscape architect has designs on you. Deacon is like, oh, there could be problems. You mean like unwanted sexual advances and lazy design work? And oh yeah, by the way, you're fired. She basically storms off, and on her way out says something to Nina, and Nina basically has had enough and lays into her. Regina almost topples off into the bay because her high heel gets stuck. If you're going on a dock, don't wear heels. So Nina goes off to the side of the beach to cool off. Deacon goes to talk to her. And they start kissing. And Deacon says some stuff about a man shouldn't have to wait so long to be with the woman he loves. And the language gets really flowery and his eyes kind of go glazed. And Nina's like, what is going on? And basically Deacon gets possessed.
We hate to see it.
Nina basically brings him out of it. He kind of runs off because he's like, holy shit, I can't trust my brain.
Do that to you.
Things kind of calm down for a little bit after that. Deacon is like, I don't want to hire another interior. And the head of construction, Anthony, is like, I didn't order any of her stuff because her design was so terrible. And so Jake takes on the interior design, and they're basing it off the original house. So the house is going to at least be decent. After the whole coming out with the story of Rick and the stalker, Deacon gets watches for everyone on the crew that can summon his own personal SWAT team in case something should happen. Nina finishes the solarium, and they had a joke when they did it because they're like, oh, well, you know, over there you can put your button to summon your ninja death squad. And he's like, oh, well, you know, I would actually do that. Yeah. And so they go into the solarium, and it's this beautiful landscape place, and they can do fake rain showers inside, and in the corner is a big red button that says Ninja Death Squad.
Wow.
And that is the ultimate romantic gesture, apparently, because they finally get together.
Sure, of course.
I know, right? I mean, if a man designed a Ninja Death Squad button for me, I'd be all for it. After that, since Nina is the only one who's been having experiences from Catherine's point of view, Deacon is like, maybe you should get off the island for a while. You know, to kind of protect her. And Nina's like, I'm not doing that because I'm finishing this job. And he's like, okay, fine. And then we get a couple of scenes from Rick's point of view, which it has been made very clear that the stalking person on the island is Rick. Right. But the mantras that are going through his head are very angry, they're very possessive, they're very, you don't deserve this, and I do, and it's really absolutely terrifying. And so it is kind of hinted that whatever was controlling Deacon on that beach is controlling Rick. Because, you know, ghost cursed island.
Sure.
Cindy is kind of doing the last go through of Catherine's room, which when Dottie found all the diaries, they didn't find the last one.
Of course not.
No, that would be convenient. So she's doing the last go around, and she's like, on this 4-poster bed, there are some carvings that are shinier than others. And she touches one and presses, and it goes in, and out pops the drawer of the bed. And so she realizes, oh my goodness, there's secret compartments in this bed. And shows the first 3 are empty, and the 4th one has a diary in it. Convenient.
Yeah. So, love a MacGuffin.
Yeah. Cindy finds Catherine's last diary, and as she is running out of the room to go tell Deacon about it, she doesn't notice the angry shadow behind her. We switch points of view again, and we go to Nina. And Nina's making her bed. And Dottie's talking to her and blah, 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 and suddenly everything shifts. And Nina is making a bed in the guest quarters, and on her finger is a giant diamond flanked by sapphires. And so it's the beginning of her recurring dream. But it doesn't stop where it always does, because she never sees the man who is holding her. And she gets to the point where the dream normally ends, and she turns around to see who is holding her, and it's Gerald. it is not a secret lover, it is her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, they have a flirty good time that leads to a naked good time.
Wait, she fucks the ghost?
No. It's implied.
It's implied that Nina fucks the ghost?
No, it is implied that Catherine and Gerald have a naked good time with each other.
Oh, okay.
So basically, this whole scene shows that it's like Gerald is a loving and doting husband to Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, well, this is crazy. Because they thought Gerald was the one who was the shadow person, who was trying to hurt Dottie, who was trying to strangle everybody on the 3rd floor stairs.
Right.
And they're like, this doesn't make any sense. So Cindy and Jake, when they're in Deacon's office, Cindy reads aloud the last diary entry, and it reveals that Jack Donovan, the architect of the manor, was stalking Catherine and told her that we're going to run off together. He stole her jewelry to start their life together somewhere else. And she's like, she wants me to leave a man I love and my children, whom I will not live without, to lead a life of disgrace, and I'm not going to do it. They're about to do something about it when fire breaks out to the staff quarters.
Right.
And then we switch perspectives again to Nina, and Nina doesn't smell the fire. Nina smells rosewater. She's in the children's wing, and she's like, what is going on? She's like, I don't remember how I got here. I don't remember how I got to the children's wing. I was following Dottie to Deacon's office to tell him about what I saw. And she kind of wakes up in front of this panel on the wall and is like, why would this panel be here? And opens it up, and inside she finds a bundle, and inside the bundle is Catherine Whitney's jewelry. And when she touches the jewelry, she gets this horrible vision. Like, really quickly. It is Jack Donovan strangling Catherine Whitney on the widow's walk after she rejected him and slapped him across the face when he tried to kiss her. And he strangled her. And he took her wedding ring, put it with the jewelry, stashed the jewelry, and he's like, I'll come back for it later. And he's going down to the dock to make his escape. He gets a little ways out to sea, dumps her body over. And then he starts kind of losing himself in this fantasy of Gerald Whitney getting blamed for the crime. Of seeing Gerald rot, being hanged for taking the woman Jack loved, for taking what was rightfully his. Gerald Whitney was absolutely nothing. He was the one that made palaces rise from nothing. And if you know any architects, you know this ego is true. But during these fantasies, Jack Donovan has found himself way off course and ends up in a shipping lane. And his boat capsizes and he drowns. And he is so angry about it. He's like, no, it doesn't end this way. I'm not letting it end this way. Everything goes back to Gerald and Catherine, and he curses the Whitneys. Nina comes out of it and throws up seawater. And she gets up and is about to go to Deacon's office to tell him exactly what just happened, and turns around, and who's there but Rick fucking Douglas?
Yeehaw.
Mm-hmm. She realizes Rick is possessed by Jack.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got ghost possession going on now. And basically, he is trying to get Nina to listen to him and blah, blah, blah. Basically, he goes after Nina. And Nina runs up to the goddamn widow's walk with no way down where Jack strangled Catherine. Because, you know, that's a great place to run to. And then she realizes that the staff quarters are on fire. Basically, history is repeating itself. There is a fire. Nina has quote-unquote disappeared. So there is this big confrontation between Rick Jack and Nina. And Rick Jack. Crazy stalker dudes sharing one body. Crazy stalker dude and a murderer. And they're basically going to kill Nina.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets close, and then Deacon shows up and is like, did you think I wouldn't see the pattern of the fire happening and then Nina disappearing and all this stuff. And so basically Deacon tries to fight off Rick Jack, but Rick Jack has all the crazy on their side, and so things are not going well. Rick Jack tries to go for Deacon, but he is stopped by suddenly this bright star of light that got in between them. And then that bright star of light slowly shifts forms and turns into none other than Catherine Whitney. She tells Deacon, the truth had to be known before I could rest. You had to know that you came from a place of love, that you were loved, this was a family of love, and that I would never abandon you. This whole time, the ghost of Jack is yelling at Catherine to pay attention to him and that he deserves her love and that he was really the one that made all of this happen about the vengeance I took in your name and blah, 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 blah. And she won't speak to him. And then eventually he goes for Catherine again and Catherine strangles Jack.
Rick was being possessed. Is Rick strangled too?
Rick is not strangled. Rick is passed out on the pavement somewhere. But at the end of it, everyone shows up and is like, Deacon, Nina, are you okay? And then they see, like, the ghost of Catherine Whitney on the widow's walk, and they're like, oh, okay. And Gerald Whitney shows up to take Catherine home. And then there is a bright flash of light, and everybody is like, did you just see that? Yeah, did you just see that? Yeah, did you? Are you sure? Did anybody hit their head? The hauntings are over, and the curse is lifted. Basically, the rest of the book is kind of the downward thing. Rick is hit with a list of felonies, including attempted murder and arson, and is going to be in jail for a very, very, very long time. Nina and Deacon are recovering in the hospital. The house is finished. Nina has planted a memorial garden to Catherine Whitney in the house. And Dottie has finished the book, which will be published and will reveal the truth to the world. And then Deacon's like, oh, okay, well, there's one more thing to do. And he hands Nina this little box that's way too big to contain jewelry. And she opens it, and it's the latest model cell phone. Mm-hmm. And she's like, what? Deacon proposes to Nina with a cell phone.
He proposes to her?
Proposes to Nina with a cell phone. He's like, you don't like jewelry. This is my way of telling you that I love you, is that I will get all of this taken care of. All the stuff. So she says yes, and Cindy looks at Jake and is like, when you do this to me, there better be a string quartet of roses and a tasteful hiding place for the very expensive ring. And then when I say yes, you release dubs.
Wow. That's quite a list there, kiddo.
Yeah, it is.
I'm still caught up on the fact that Deacon has proposed to this girl that he has known for less than 3 months.
With the cell phone.
With a cell phone.
Yeah.
The proposing in general is madness.
Yeah, but they decided they're going to get married at the Crane's Nest, and it's basically a happily ever after from there.
Great.
So that is Better Homes and Hauntings.
All right.
Like I said, not a heavy book. It's a very quick read. I read it, and I reread it again in like 2 days. Between nap times and all sorts of things.
So how many bottles would you give it?
I give it 3.5. Like, it's fun. It's not going to win any literary awards, but I really enjoy it. I like the sassy heroines. I like the mystery. I like the haunting. I had a good time.
If you like paranormal romance, I guess this is the book for you. If you like straight people, I guess this is the book.
If you like more straight people paranormal romance, I highly recommend the How to Run with a Naked Werewolf series. I know, right? Wait a minute. That's what it's called.
I can't be out here reading a book and being like, people are like, what are you reading? And I have to say How to Run with a Naked Werewolf. I can't be doing that. I'd rather tell people I was reading Catcher in the Rye, and I think that book's pretentious.
That book is pretentious. Evie agrees.
Well, Liz likes this book. It comes highly recommended by Liz. So if you enjoy paranormal,
I like Dr. Smut novels too. So
if you like whodunits and murder mysteries, this might be a good book for you.
Yeah, it's a happy go.
Our next book is
Cemetery Boys.
Cemetery Boys. It's a YA novel that just recently got to the top of the Times bestseller list. It is about a trans boy and his adventures with some ghosts. So I'm very excited to read a ghost book that is not full of straight people. Hi, baby.
We have a guest host.
But in the meantime, if you've enjoyed this podcast, give us a like, share it with your friends. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we also have a website, litliteraturePodcast.com.
Yes, and if you're feeling exceptionally generous, we do have a Patreon. I am raising 2 small humans. Casey just bought a house. Also, too, if you guys, we know times are tough. If you can't give anything, we would appreciate it if you just tell somebody to listen to us.
Yeah, so thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you right before Halloween.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. For more information, visit us at litliteraturePodcast.com or check out our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. And remember, too much work and no vacation deserves at least a small libation.
Cheers!